this is going to be a very different take from maybe some mental health professionals, but some might agree. But I think mental health professionals perpetuate and contribute more to the victim mentality than taking away from it. I try to initiate change, and I know a few therapists that are also in that way too. But sometimes when I hear therapists, I just feel like they disempower people, that they want to blame systems, they want to blame people, they want to blame life. And it's, to me, I'm like, you're just adding to the victim mentality. You're just giving more people another reason why not to change. And I heard it, I can't remember who I heard it from, but it's interesting, and I think there's an element of truth to this, where there's this pastor and he was saying that therapy is kind of like the new religion, and therapists are now the new pastors, and everybody's always like, well, my therapist said this, and my, even when I talk, like, I am a therapist and we all talk differently, but if I tell somebody, they'll say, oh, well, my therapist said this, or that's not true, that my therapist said this. And I'm like, that's just okay. I mean, that's their therapist, but it's almost like this battle of like ideologies. But one of the bigger ideologies I see in therapy is like everything is traumatic, and then everything is everybody else's fault. And I think there comes a point where it's like, okay, you got to help your client move along a little bit. You can keep validating and giving that empathy and the unconditional positive regard, but at some point, sometimes we could be perpetuating that. We could be adding to that. Yes, some parents are really toxic, but you're only getting one side of the story. What if they're making it all up? You're not going to know, and you're going to help your client. But the remedy is more so, are you helping your client become somebody more than they need to? Because sometimes you do got to become somebody different. Actually, every time you got to be somebody different. If you were a person without problems, you would be that person already. But if you are a struggling client, and your client is struggling, um, if you're trying to help them force their own self into the environment that they're in without helping them change in the process, then you're not doing anybody any favors, because the world's not going to adjust to our clients, and our clients have to be to some degree moldable if we're going to help them. Because anybody who comes into therapy, there's got to be something that they would be able to change within themselves that would allow them to have a better experience out in the world. But if you're a therapist that just is such a strong advocate, and your client could do nothing wrong, and the world's out to get them, you are the reason why we have the biggest victims in this field, and why we're not being trusted anymore. Because we're the ones that are, as a field, we're basically telling the public, you need to adjust to this individual no matter what, and you're oppressing this individual for whatever reason. It doesn't matter what camp you're in, you are not doing like anybody a favor by enabling your clients and letting them think they're victims, because you're just adding to that in their life, and they're probably going to see you for a long time. So maybe it's a financial benefit, I don't know, but you're not doing them any favors. I think it's totally inappropriate that if you're that kind of therapist that wants to enable your clients and make them think that they're right and the world is just wrong. It doesn't work like that, and you're hurting them by doing that.